All right, now moving over to part B.
Right. Okay.
In here, of course, the candidates were asked to look about, explain how children are portrayed elsewhere in the novel. There's actually more children in the novel than first appears. There's quite a lot of them.
That's right, yeah.
But it begins, this response begins the Cratchits. There's reference to the Cratchits, and then Tiny Tim. It would have been good to see on the Tiny Tim more examples from the novel and perhaps more specific examples of where Tiny Tim features in the novel, what he says, what he does.
An overview of who Tiny Tim is.
Yes, and what he says and his general attitude to life.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
and
that's missing,
you know, even going to church and carrying on
Yes,
shoulders
that's right,
and all the iconic images that we have of Tiny Tim. It goes on to talk about Scrooge and how he's very upset by what he's seen, and there is a good point here about how Scrooge changes for the better after observing Tiny Tim. The next paragraph moves on to Scrooge's sister, and we see Scrooge's sister Fan. Really nice point towards the end of the page. There's a good memorised quotation. Obviously, bearing in mind these are closed book exams,
there's a lot they can pull from there.
You know. But I think it's a well-remembered quotation here. Father is much kinder now. Suggesting that Scrooge's family life was not the best to grow up in, and a reason why he chooses to stay away. I think that's a really good point.
Yes, it implies Scrooge's childhood, actually.
It does.
Scrooge as a child.
It does.
Yes, quite good.
On the final page, we've got Fan is a big impact on Scrooge. Draws to a close pretty quickly there. But there are some fair points made about Tiny Tim and Fan, and to say implied Scrooge's childhood. There's the whole concept of children, though, is not really sustained.
No.
This could have benefited from more examples, specific examples from the novel, to take it further, to explore it more. I mean, you know, sort of full mark responses could just look at the Cratchits.
I was going to say, they don't have to look at every child. It could be a very close focus on one particular child.
I mean, 2 focus points, but just develop them.
You know, they don't have to do a whole range at all. But it's finding and extrapolating all that evidence.
Because Tiny Tim, you could show the progression of him throughout the actual novel.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I say evidence, don't mean quotations, just like on your paper. It's references, specific examples of events, what they say, what they don't say. If candidates do want to try and remember particular words, they can be paraphrased, doesn't have to include quotations at all. But, you know, it's that knowledge, it's showing us the knowledge of the text as a whole. And unfortunately, there's not enough examples in that. But I think there is enough to show a clear understanding.
It was very comparable with Part A in the quality, I felt. There was a similarity in the depth of exploration.
So where would you go with that then?
I would probably go with the level 3 again on that one.
I mean, it's not sustained exploration of the novel. So I went with 12.
It's a really sound understanding, but I just feel you can pull a bit more out of it. So 12 it is. So this one got 12 for both parts. Excellent.
All right.